Good morning and welcome. My name is Tom Ogarenko and I'll be your host for today's International Minerals Innovation Institute Innovation Challenge webinar on October the 27th, our application deadline being November the 20th, 2020. Just a reminder to participants, if you are interested in posing questions to the group presenting today, to have those addressed and answered, please utilize the chat facility to enter your questions, and we'll be taking them in the order in which they've been entered there for our team to be able to address. I'd like to welcome you to our conversation today, and along with my colleagues and also our critical sponsor for this challenge. We're hoping that today's conversation is informative for you and also helps address any questions you have outstanding from your review of the Innovation Challenge specification. My name is Tom Ogarenko. I'm based in Edmonton, and along with my colleagues Keith Jones, Bob Mitchell, and Chris Olson, we supported the efforts of the International Minerals Innovation Institute in defining this particular challenge and having it released for you. Before we head into our broader conversation, I would like to give a moment to Al to introduce himself and just give a bit of a sense of the International Minerals Innovation Institute involved in this particular challenge. Al?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Again, I'm Al Shep. I'm the Executive Director of the IMII, and we've organized this challenge on behalf of our minerals company members and our Government of Saskatchewan funding partner, Innovation Saskatchewan. I'm very pleased to again, have you with us this morning and have you engage with us in this first innovation challenge we've undertaken. IMII is what's known as an innovation supporting network for Saskatchewan's minerals industry. Our members are among the principal potash uranium producers who are supporting several world-class operations and projects in Saskatchewan, and are looking forward to what comes out of this challenge.
Excellent. Thank you, Al. Our objectives with this webinar today are to achieve three core outcomes. The first is to give you some additional context, so you'll be able to leave understanding some important background about the International Minerals Innovation Institute, the roles of the parties involved in this challenge, and the overall process. We'll make sure that you also are able to review the key elements of the Alternative Energy Solutions Challenge, including the application process, and of course that you've had an opportunity to ask and discuss any questions related to the program in this challenge. A copy of this slide and this video will be available on the IMI website in the coming days, and any of the questions that are raised here today will also be added to the questions section of the applicant portal as well as you complete your applications. So let's dive in. In terms of overall context, I'll hand things back to Al just to give us an overview of the International Minerals Innovation Institute and our challenge process.
As you can see in the slide here, we're an industry-led nonprofit corporation formed back in 2012. Yet we strive to be a catalyst for innovation sustainability in Saskatchewan's mineral sector, and an alternative energy systems challenge certainly fits in with that mission. You see also on the slide, we're membership-based, which includes representatives of government of Saskatchewan, the post-secondary educational and research providers in Saskatchewan, and others. But most importantly, we're driven by the needs of our mineral industry members, which include Cameco, Mosaic, Nutrien, BHP, and K+S Potash. And they're the ones who are lending the drive and energy to this challenge, contributing the funds through IMI to this challenge, and then we'll be working with those who are selected out of the challenge to advance potential solutions and ultimately a winner for a field trial when the challenge concludes, and therefore be the ones who are helping support the challenge and make it happen. So we're in and this is our first innovation challenge. We've been following a process with the support of our consulting team. And just walk really briefly from left to right the steps we have done with our research and development and demonstration panel. It's a team of industry representatives and they've engaged others, subject matter experts from their organizations, to help us define and bring definition to the challenge. We've worked through several of the steps in the first wheel on the left, and we're now have the process where we've are reaching out to others, the innovators, potential solution providers, to join us in the challenge, bring forward their potential technology solutions for us to consider. It's a process that we've been going through for the last few months here, and with the launch earlier this month, this again is really picking up steam in its next step here. And again, welcome you for joining us today, and hopefully you learn enough. This allows you to make your submission to us towards the end of November. Yeah, so in the challenge, through consultation with our industry members, we've defined the challenge, and we'll be speaking a bit more about that here, and it's the information that's been publicly released. So we're in the process now of the innovator selection, which will result in a sprint process over several months, and we'll talk a bit more about that too. We have $500,000 we're investing in this challenge to help advance solutions forward. And ultimately, at the end of considering a short list of potential candidates, we will pick a winning solution to move forward as a demonstration project through a field trial, likely in 2022. We see this process of the Innovators Challenge selection unfolding over the next few months. And then the short list of working with the short list of people over the bulk of 2021 to lead to an ultimate winner. Just speaking briefly here, so IMII, as the sponsoring body for the challenge, is offering various roles of support, program management, and having support defining the challenge with a consulting team represented by Tom and Chris. We'll be helping to market the challenge and support the innovation selection, and working with partners, including those who we shortlist out of this process to help move forward their potential solutions. Our industry members and Government of Saskatchewan through Innovation Saskatchewan are providing the $500,000 prize. Industry members are also contributing technical expertise in the challenge area, both in the selection of the challenge and the selection of the shortlist potential solution providers, and ultimately the winning one. Doing this for a variety of reasons, but certainly we expect our industry members to leverage their co-investment in potential solutions to bring more innovations available to them for use, meet their energy and greenhouse gas reduction needs going forward. Certainly, they're engaging in this challenge and the belief we will gain access to novel solutions and innovators, and that will also expand potentially our supply chain solutions and collaborators that are available to us. In the IMII model, an innovation is not an innovation until it's put into use, and we certainly see this challenge as a way to help bring a solution forward that can be put into use. We see this as a significant investment in technology development, demonstration, and deployment, and we think that's really key to moving innovation in this space forward.
In supporting the International Minerals Innovation Institute and the work that Al and the other members of the Research Development Committee have been putting into this challenge, there are also a series of other communications partners within the innovation ecosystem that have also been distributing this challenge amongst their network of innovators. And I've also been offering opportunities to help top quality innovators that can be supported through existing programs they may have as they pursue this particular challenge. So this presents an opportunity for innovators to look at other innovation support organizations across Canada and internationally as ways of leveraging this prize purse with additional program applications through other grants or accelerators or incubators. It also presents an opportunity for the innovation ecosystem to assist companies to increase their chances of success. So Adding an innovation ecosystem organization such as an accelerator or an incubator or a mentor program to your program, your application, only helps but to strengthen that effort. It also presents a way for leveraging of other co-funding opportunities with this challenge and the innovator. And some innovation ecosystem organizations have also volunteered to be expert reviewers and mentors for the innovators as we see these solutions that are proposed move through the review process. We're looking to see you as innovators be focused on not just receiving the $500,000 of cash in-kind support for being a successful applicant, but also become aware of and more keenly understanding and connected to real market opportunities and expertise that help you de-risk these important steps as you advance your particular technology. And of course, this as an innovator presents a fantastic opportunity to leverage your current funding as well as attract new sources of investment, or be they dilutive, equity, or debt-based. So very important sets of opportunities in the role that you play with your function within this challenge. So now let's unpack the challenge itself. And to dive into some of the ways in which this AES challenge can help you accelerate the commercialization of your technology in collaboration with industry customers, I'm going to ask my colleague Chris Olson to lead us through the next two slides. And Chris, just give me the call for next when you'd like me to advance.
You got it. Thanks there, Tom. So hi, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to be on the webinar today. One of the phrases that Tom likes to use when describing the CDS and these innovation challenges is we're looking to crowdsource innovation. I really like that idea. And so as I read through the key challenge statement that we have here, I'd like to go through that, and then I'll just pick out some of the key points of the parameters we put around this work. The idea being with these types of innovation challenges, and specifically this challenge for the IMII, is looking at alternate energy systems in a broad scope, but with enough granular detail so that we can get some real tangible solutions deployed to these sites. So the key challenge statement that we landed on through a number of iterations that we worked with the IMI group to come to is the IMII, along with their member companies, are pursuing an innovation challenge that will provide an alternate energy system which will reduce overall greenhouse gas emissions, a key point, have a levelized energy cost on par with current practices, and will allow all members to collaborate at a pre-competitive level. Preference will be given to solutions that have been demonstrated at a pre-commercial scale in a field setting and can be deployed at a pilot scale within 24 to 36 months. So we've put a few parameters around that statement. We're looking for greenhouse gas emission reduction. We're looking for a levelized energy cost, so increased efficiency on par with any traditional practices. And we're looking at these companies being able to work at a pre-competitive level as well. We have a timeline, a time frame around that, being able to pilot a technology within 24 to 36 months. So we can jump to the next slide there, Tom, please. So the key challenge itself. So through this process, we spent a number of months working with the R&D committee from IMII, as well as some of the other key stakeholders within the IMII member companies. And we came to a few key pathways for emissions reduction. So waste heat recovery, utilizing any low-grade available thermal energy on site that can be either recycled back into a heating system or used with a cogeneration application to produce electricity. So keying on some of the available low-grade heat that might be accessible on these sites. Zero or lower emission sources for electricity. So looking at potentially solar PV, wind solutions, biomass, controlled biomass power plant applications, things along those lines. Energy efficiency improvements. One of the first things I learned when looking at increasing energy production on building sites was, if you're bleeding energy all over the place, then improve your efficiency, save energy there, and then look for those solutions. So there may be opportunities on some of these sites where increasing traditional practices and reducing the amount of energy being wasted might be an opportunity, and that might build into a solution that could be brought forward. As well as expanding electrification. A lot of the underground mine sites that are operated in Saskatchewan have petrochemical-based fuels that they're burning. This can lead to a number of other consequential impacts, ventilation, those sorts of things. So if we can expand electrification, you can increase solutions in a number of areas. Business drivers that we worked through during the challenge process came to creating greater energy efficiency, thereby reducing operating costs and environmental impact. And then the second and third points here tie right into the Saskatchewan government's mandate by 2030 to have reduced greenhouse gas emissions and reduce costs for electricity and transport. So those are key things that IMII is piggybacking on and trying to address those through this challenge as well. And the final point there, increasing the predictability of energy costs in a secure energy system was routinely brought up through our process. And a lot of the feedback that we got was that was the two key points that all of the IMII stakeholders wanted to be addressed. Jump to the next slide there, please, Tom. So what we'll touch on this slide here is the technology readiness level. So if you're not overly familiar with that, on the right side of the slide here, we have between level 1 to 9. What we are aiming at is technologies between the TRL level of 4 to 7. So a component and or validation in a laboratory environment at level 4 up to a prototype ready for demonstration in an appropriate operational environment. So what we're looking at is a earlier stage level 4 or lower even technology can be a solution that can be deployed for this challenge, but it would be something that within that 24 to 36 month time frame can be deployed at a pilot scale. And we will give you a definition or our definition on a pilot scale in a couple of slides here. So the successful technology solutions that we're looking at, again, will reduce overall greenhouse gas emissions in the life cycle assessment, have a levelized energy cost on par with current practices. We'll also give you a definition on the levelized energy cost so you guys know what we're exactly addressing there. Demonstrate a quantifiable business case, be deployable within that 24 to 36 month timeline at a pilot scale, conform to IMI competition law compliance. There's a link there in the slide that you can take a look at if you're not familiar with that IMI competition law compliance policy, and maintain or improve safety at the mine site. Now, the consultants, as we went through this process, we identified safety as obviously an overarching goal, and it was, mentioned to us by the IMI members that that's a bit of a motherhood statement that's kind of implied, but we did want to make the point that no matter what we're doing here, the Saskatchewan mining sector is recognized at the global level as one of the safest and most efficient practices in the mining sector around the world, and we want to make sure that we maintain that and emphasize that as much as possible. Partial solution submissions will be welcome, and it's highly likely that the consortium of solutions will be needed to advance this challenge. This is where we get back to we're looking to crowdsource innovative solutions. So we welcome partial solutions. If you have one piece of the puzzle that you think is a viable opportunity, there could be very likely another company or another member of a consortium that you could work with to fully provide that solution. So that's something that we're very open to, and we are open to different technologies at different levels of the TRL scale outside of that 4 to 7, but preference will be given to technologies that are in that frame. Next slide there, please, Tom. Some of the key performance indicators that we deduced from our pre-work leading into this challenge specification document being issued out is that applicants' proposed solutions will be evaluated based on the capacity to demonstrate a quantifiable business case, outline clear technology and business readiness, maximize energy savings and emissions reductions. So 3 key points there. In terms of the quantifiable business case, we're looking at levelized cost of energy from the innovator solutions better than the customer's levelized cost. And again, we'll give you that definition here on the next slide. Deployable within that 24 to 36 months as a pilot project at a mine site. And then on maximize energy savings and emissions reductions, essentially when compared against general energy utilization and GHG emission factors, the potential energy savings and greenhouse gas reductions can be quantified. There is a document, I believe it's one of the appendix in the challenge specification document that we're referencing there for the mining facility reference benchmark. So take a look at that to familiarize yourself with essentially what's the baseline that you're competing against now. We jump to the next slide there, please, Tom. So 2 key definitions that we wanted to give a clear explanation for. So pilot scale, through the process in one of our previous webinars, we had the IMI stakeholders give us their understanding of what we meant by pilot scale. So we wanted to be able to provide this to everybody so that it's clear for everyone. A proof of concept of a scale up size, which has been previously demonstrated successfully at a bench scale, is ready or near ready for design at a larger scale and should be ready at the successful completion of the project for full commercial scale. So that 24 to 36 month timeline through that process, you need to be able to execute at a pilot scale. And as we say here, by the end of that project, looking for full commercial scale. Levelized energy costs. So this is a bit long-winded, but I'm just going to read through it so it's clear for everybody. calculated by the lifetime energy cost. So capital and operational costs divided by the total energy produced. For AES, it is expected that initial capital investments will be higher than for traditional energy systems. Traditional energy systems that utilize hydrocarbon fuels or receive electrical energy from the utility grid network are expected to have increased operational costs of the operational lifetime of the mine when compared to alternate energy system power. The high upfront capital costs and the capacity constraints can be a challenge to scale up renewable alternate solutions for power generation. Using this levelized cost approach, we hope to enable a more effective comparison of different proposed solutions. So if there's a high upfront capital cost and you can justify that by a reduced operational cost, that's what we're trying to get at. We're not trying to be too nitpicky, but we want to be able to show that these levelized energy costs are comparable with traditional practices and what's being deployed at the mine site now. And being able to demonstrate that at a mine site, as Tom mentioned a little bit earlier, gives you a great opportunity to potentially deploy this to other mine sites or other avenues or markets that might be looking for similar solutions. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Chris. So in terms of the evaluation criteria that your proposal would be assessed against, these are the primary areas of focus. The plan you are proposing, that it aligns with the challenge specification, that the approach that you're outlining is clear and complete and addresses the approach to communications with the host companies and IMII. The team, so your track record as a management team in bringing together your solution, your industrial experience within mining or other related industries, your knowledge and skills and multidisciplinary perspectives, including any inclusiveness and diversity that is reflected in your team, and also your experience with stage-gated project management. Another critical criteria, of course, is about your firm, your company, your consortium, the reputation that you have within the marketplace. If you could outline that within your proposal, that would be also well received. Your financial capacity. We are looking at this stage for non-confidential information, but the ability of this process to be a benefit to your business is also a critical goal that we're also looking to achieve. So we want to ensure that you have the financial capacity to be able to make it through the experience, as we had talked about it previously being something that would unfold over a couple of years into 2022. The ability to demonstrate future growth opportunities for expansion. Any testimonials you may have from research teams with whom you've collaborated, other technology providers, key customer accounts, or other pilot scenarios in which you've worked on. And a brief high-level overview of your IP position as well to ensure that it is a strong and healthy IP position for your firm. The next critical criteria is your solution. We want to ensure that it is relevant, practical, complete, and feasible, enabling a business case evaluation. That would be a critical part of the process under which this challenge would be unfolding towards moving into a field trial. We want to ensure that it is fit for purpose and can handle any required volumes and footprints that you are outlining in your critical assumptions about your solution. And that if it has been proven at a bench scale, what were some of the performance characteristics related to your particular solution at that bench scale. Any dependencies that you would have for your particular solution would also be identified, a risk assessment plan, and an overview of how you might look at integrations with other systems, either for key inputs or outputs. Any clear implementation approach description would also be of strong assistance, and clarity around some of the maintenance requirements that would support ongoing evaluation of this from an operating perspective. Whether this serves in your proposal as a sort of foundation for other or follow-on solutions that can be placed into a broader set of mining operation requirements, and any third-party testimonials or independent verifications as well. If you could include those with your submission, those would also be well received by the review team. The benefits is another critical area we'll be looking at in evaluating the proposals. Looking at this stage for a high-level view of the economics related to your solution in terms of your estimated claims related to reductions in energy use per unit of production. Those particular characteristics and measures would be refined over the course of the challenge process. So at this point, your starting assumptions would be the critical ones to identify. The levelized cost per energy reduction, as had been identified by Chris in his recent comments. The projected economics of your solution as well. If you could provide some highlights in that regard, that would be important. And then from an environmental perspective, any associated ESG or emissions levelized cost per unit of emissions reductions, those would all be well received as well. In terms of strategic alignment, the IMII's member goals for this particular challenge are outlined in the challenge specification in terms of some of the business drivers as well that Chris has outlined today. And we're also looking to see the strategic alignment with some of the upcoming regulatory compliance issues with Sask Power and CSA. So any approvals that may be required, if you could identify or flag those and some of your plans to achieve those if you haven't already done so. And any other programs or funders that could also be leveraged in your proposal, if you could highlight those as well, that would also give us a sense that this innovation ecosystem can be supporting the broad range of what you're looking to advance in your proposal. In terms of the particular deliverables expected out of this particular challenge, a Gantt chart of the necessary steps and milestones for the project, requirements for follow-through on that above Gantt chart, total capital operating costs for the work you're looking to scope out in any sort of demonstration in a field environment, and a comprehensive business case for the solution. So this includes estimated greenhouse gas reductions, levelized cost of equipment over the course of its lifetime, any staffing requirements, and projected materials and energy balance. Now, these things are things that we're not expecting of you in your submission. We're expecting these as we go through the sprint process with the shortlisted technologies. This particular set of deliverables means that it's basically framing up a comparison of what would be likely as a viable field trial ready solution. In terms of the nature of the challenge assistance, this is the support of up to $500,000 for the overall prize for support of a test site, any support required in terms of subject matter expertise, specialized equipment, materials, as well as in the form of cash. So it can take the form of a number of different ways of supporting you as you move through this particular experience. In terms of some of our key milestones and timelines for this, we launched this challenge on October the 6th. And today's webinar, of course, being on the 27th, is presenting you an opportunity to provide your questions to us today. Our submission deadline is end of business on November the 20th, 2020. We will then be walking through with the IMII review team a review process through the course of the balance of the winter into middle of January. Then looking to have shortlisted proponents provide a presentation around the 22nd of January, and then interviews with proponents in person or on webinars by the review team would be a follow-up by the end of the month of January. And then the recommendations on the chosen innovators that have been finalized for this prize by the middle of February the 17th, with a decision on the winning proponent by the review team made as a recommendation to the IMII board on the 3rd of March. So in terms of those key timelines, obviously the most important pressing one next is the 20th of November with the deadline for the full set of applications. As we come to the end of this portion of our presentation timeline, I'd like to turn now to the portal and just remind folks to enter any questions you have there, and some have already been posed, and we'll get into starting to answer those. As it relates to program and general questions on an ongoing basis after today until the submission deadline, those can be made available through the IMII website and through the applicant portal. All questions that are posed will be made available to all applicants through the applicant portal with a question and answer section that you can access there if you haven't already seen that in motion. And you'll see that there are already some questions that are posed. and also a direct contact either to myself for technical questions where I'll chase down answers for you, or program or general questions available to Al. And we will again be taking any of these questions and the answers we are providing and making those available through the applicant portal for everybody to be able to see. So do check in regularly to make sure that you're not missing any latest updates that could assist you with further insights. So in terms of the questions, I'm looking back at our chat window here and starting to scroll from the top. I did see a question here that were posed early during our slide presentation on the areas of specific industry needs and the kinds of solutions expected, and some of those particular scenarios. In terms of the slides that we presented, in terms of the overall area of areas of interest, I think we've started that particular set of answers, but in terms of some of the specific scenarios, Al or Chris, can I ask you to make some comments around some of the scenarios that were emerging during the challenge definition phase that might be helpful for answering this particular question?
Yeah, so one of the areas, Tom, that we had identified kind of through the process was, as we mentioned, looking at the electrification of equipment on site. For some of the underground mines, the ventilation and the emissions that'll come with the combustion engine can be quite problematic and have cascading effects. If we could create an electrification system that could switch traditional combustion engines to an electrical system, that might be something that would be of interest.
Al, any additional comments to add?
Sure. Yeah, Al here. When people get into the challenge specification document, as Chris noted earlier, there's sort of an appendix in the back that describes generally the energy uses in both the uranium sector and the potash sector. Say some of the scenarios in that, out of that information, the context is we both the uranium and potash use some fairly significant amounts of electricity to drive their processes both underground and on surface in their mines and their mills. As noted by Chris, there still may be further opportunities for electrification in both sectors, through things like further equipment electrification. I think probably one of the challenge areas there is when you get up on surface in the mills. All this potash example right now, they use significant amounts of natural gas in the drying process for the product. Are there some innovations available that could lead to, quote, further electrification of the drying process? Or are there alternative ways to provide heat for the drying process? And that's a common challenge over at uranium as well. They're in the far north, so their challenge is not burning natural gas per se in their drying process, but it's burning propane, which has to be trucked in great distances and stored. So it's another area of potential electrification. But I would direct people to the appendix on energy use in the challenge document. And if you haven't already seen it, have a look at that. And if that generates more questions, as noted by Tom, we're happy to receive them and post replies.
So thank you, Al.
And one other comment I would make there too, Tom, would be one of the innovative solutions that could be viable would be looking at improved instrumentation and actually data collection around some of the operation of equipment on site. So it might not be something as complex as completely redesigning or rebuilding a piece of equipment, but rather improving the way that it operates and improving those efficiencies with some improved instrumentation or data collection along those lines.
Excellent, thanks, Chris. So hopefully that has provided Vladimir enough of an answer for you at this stage in the process. We can, of course, be transcribing more of this information into the written responses, which we will be posting in those frequently asked questions sections of the applicant portal. In terms of the next question here, does it mean that larger established firms are preferred to startups? And the answer to that one is no. Our desire here is to ensure that we have innovative solutions coming from all spectrums of sizes of companies. And one of the other questions posed here is eligibility of companies from outside of the jurisdiction for this. And companies from outside of Canada are eligible for this as well. One of the desired impacts of this, of course, is that we are looking to strengthen the capacity of the supply chain to the mining and minerals industry. And given the position of the International Minerals Innovation Institute in Saskatoon and the intensity of some of the mining operations in the province, a benefit to Saskatchewan with either collaborative partners in the region or the ability to see the technology advance in that region as an early adoption environment presents, I think, some important outcomes that, though not explicit for this challenge, would be of strong benefit to realize. The opportunity as well in terms of size of firms here, as I mentioned as well, consortium bids are also supported. So if as a firm you don't believe you have a complete solution, we've enabled you to provide a partial solution and also encourage you to look at what other partners could you bring to the table to make it more of a comprehensive and complete solution. That bit of extra thinking through the problem of the ultimate commercial solution of this or field trial ready solution for this would do nothing but benefit you in strengthening your proposal. But by no means is size meant to be a bar to entry. In terms of the next question here about the application template, in terms of the application itself, the challenge specification does have a part of your proposal that we would like to see submitted with your fuller proposal. We're not prescribing a full template for you in terms of what you need to provide back, but I would provide some advice and recommendation this way. If you look at these evaluation criteria and structure your written response around each of these critical areas to highlight where you've provided supporting documentation or some brief highlights, that will provide you with a very strong way of communicating the value of your solution and doing it in a way that clearly maps it against the evaluation criteria that the review committee will be looking for. The kinds of items that are in the schedule within that challenge specification, the response template does provide a little more detail that we are looking for in a structured way also to assist. And some of those questions are replicated in the online portal as well. And the reason for that is that provides us with a way of also making sure we've administered the digital evaluation process with the review committee in a way that gives them some quick highlights as they're being introduced to your floor proposals. All of your information can be uploaded and edited at any time between here and the application deadline using the application portal. And we can send you and do send you messages through that portal that acknowledge receipt of the information that we've got about your proposal. And we can also be using that as we go through the evaluation process for supplementary questions that may come up as we look to evaluate your submitted materials. So in terms of the application template, just to provide a brief summary of that, utilizing these evaluation criteria and paying attention to the items in the response template on page 16 of the challenge specification become the package that we are looking for. You can provide additional attachments, which may include technical specifications. But again, the advice at this particular stage is to provide non-confidential information. I can't stress that enough. We want to ensure that your proprietary interests as innovators are protected and provides you a fair opportunity as you walk into this process to be evaluated. So the opportunities for any more detailed technical due diligence come through the application review process and would be done in a way that is also interested to protect your confidential business information. In terms of an additional question that we have here from Sonia, she's looking for seeing whether or not IMII would be providing an industrial site for the project. And so Al, any thoughts around the notion of an industrial site that you'd like to share with the participants today?
Yeah, appreciate the question, and certainly it's our intention, our belief, and our desire that one of our member companies will provide an industrial site for the ultimate winner and that demonstration. Again, we don't believe innovation is an innovation until it's put into use. Which site that might be will very much be dependent on which solution ultimately is selected as the winner. And there are in this province, from among our members, there are operations that have been, well, some operations have been operating for decades, some for shorter term, some are at the project stage. So there are many different opportunities we think that could be presented for the trial, for the actual field trial. But yeah, it's certainly our intention to provide the industrial site for that. And for the 5 shortlisted, we intend to shortlist up to 5 solutions and technology providers, you know, from which we would pick our ultimate winner. I'm sure when our member companies are looking at the shortlisting and those 5 and their potential solutions, they would be considering, again, where that technology could be deployed, quote, within their operations. And I would guess probably not even just within Saskatchewan, but elsewhere. And perhaps if you're new to the minerals industry, you may not be aware fully of IMII's membership, but BHP is one of the world's largest mining companies, active in several different sectors, and working on a potash development here in Saskatchewan. Cameco's one of the world's leading uranium producers, with operations not in Saskatchewan, but interests elsewhere around the world. K+S is a Canadian production of a German company, but with potash operations in Europe. Mosaic and Nutrien are both large producers of potash and other fertilizers, and have in addition to operations in Saskatchewan, have operations in their cases, memory serves me right, to North and South America. Yeah, so the potential for where solutions could be applied certainly are focusing on Saskatchewan. Our intention is to, again, bring those innovations forward for use here in Saskatchewan, but just given the nature of our members, you know, an innovative solution here could well have the potential to go elsewhere.
Excellent, thank you, Al. Al, one of the other questions that's come up is just a confirmation that American companies are eligible, and I would take the answer to that being yes, just based on your answer here.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Yeah, we certainly, again, are focusing our effort on Saskatchewan, but we know, and particularly with this challenge, we did want to communicate that we do believe a solution could well come from outside our province, outside our industry. So it could be adjacent jurisdictions, adjacent industries, but again, our members are active globally, and solutions we think can come globally. As long as they can be adopted and adapted for use here, we're certainly open to considering them.
So one other question here as well, Al, from Chad, which is the notion of whether the timeline milestones will remain virtual for the time being.
I think the answer to that is yes. I'll say that's certainly my expectation. We'll continue this process virtually. I'd say likely up till the end of March, or into the March, when we select the up to 5 to participate in the sprint thereafter. Then I think we'll see where we are with COVID, with pandemic rules, with vaccines and the like. So hopefully that sounds fair and reasonable, but I think, yeah, we're going to remain virtual for the time being.
Thanks, Al. One of the questions here from Vladimir is that wanted just a confirmation that the prize may be split between several winners. So Al, did you want to answer that one as well?
So that's for me to answer. The $500,000 could be split up between several.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, I hope that sounds reasonable in my explanation, because again, this is our first innovation challenge. Yes, we've put up $500,000 to support up to 5 shortlisted companies in advancing their solutions to the point where our members can make a decision over which one we want to take to a field trial. It's our intention to have additional resources for the trial, because it's been flagged from among our members that in the mineral sector, which is may be characterized as large and long-lived, capital assets, that ultimately the solution and perhaps solutions, and there may be some interest from our members in considering moving more than one solution forward to a field trial, is that the field trial may require more significant investment. And if that's the case, certainly we would look for ways in which not only we could fund it, but can we leverage funding from other organizations that are available in Canada. So for example, we've had some initial chats with Sustainable Development Technologies Canada. No commitments on that front, I'll just say, but we've had those type of discussions that, again, depending on the solution that ultimately is picked, that will help scope the nature of the actual field trial and then the resources that may be required for that.
Excellent. Thanks, Al.
Is that fair, Tom?
That's right. Yeah, and I think we've got a follow-up question here coming out of that. If the 500,000 isn't intended for a field trial, what's it intended to be spent on? So I can take a stab at answering that one, Alan. You can fill in the blanks. So in terms of the spend on this would be an opportunity to evaluate the technology as it would then become ready for an ultimate field trial. So some of the expected challenge deliverables that $500,000 would intend it to be invested in would be some of the necessary business case analysis and project planning for the broader field trial and evaluation of that technology solution. So the comments that Al has just made here regarding additional financial leverage for the field trial itself would require additional resources. So in the case of other types of challenges like this, what we often see is a feed study or an evaluation, more of conducted as an engineering study with the existing bench scale solution that enables the necessary expertise to be applied so that we can then make an appropriate decision on which solution is most viable once it proceeds into that field trial scenario. Any additional comments on that, Al?
Yeah, as I understand it, again, we're noting we have a range of technology readiness levels we've identified here. And again, with the intent being that we are able to choose something on the day that can go, again, be scalable up for a field trial. So there may be a requirement along the way to invest some money as part of this to help move some things a little further on that TRL list, TRL level here. And yeah, we're open to be considering of that option. Because again, if the technologies were already, quote, commercially available in the market, we would not have to be running a challenge. Purpose of the challenge, again, is to help bring technology forward from a demonstration deployment scale, and we wreck our perspective. And again, we appreciate that a little bit of work may be required in the challenge sprint to allow us to come to that point where we can make that decision.
Yeah. So just a couple of additional questions, Al, that are coming up around the just clarifying the $500,000 envelope and whether it's available for one or up to the 5 organizations. And the way in which the program is designed is it's up to 5 of the proponents would then share in that $500,000. And that's the answer to like 3 of those little partial questions that have just come in. Any other questions from participants today?
Just one of the questions, Tom, that Vladimir had that I just wanted to touch on quickly was the potential waste heat sources from exhaust thermal energy available for capture. So that would be tied into some of the drying systems, heat recovery from mine water potentially as well, or heat recovery from ventilation air. That's not all inclusive, but a couple of examples of where some of that heat recovery might be able to take place. So it's just one we skipped over there I wanted to touch on real quick.
Excellent. Thanks for that addition, Chris.
Yeah, and again, if you look at the appendix to the document, it sort of shows that each of the, at least the major steps in the mine and mill processes for both potash and uranium, sort of, how energy is used, and if it's fossil fuel based or electricity, and sort of the process steps. And that could give some insight as to where opportunities exist for solutions as well.
Excellent. Well, before we close off the questions, I'll just open up to any final words to you, and then any final questions that come in, we can tackle those before we sign off.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to again thank people who've joined us today for the webinar. Thank you for your interest in our Alternative Energy Systems Innovation Challenge. We have had a few, there are a few of our industry members also online taking notes. And I know they appreciate your interest as well. And also, if you want to look up any of our individual members, you can see that several of them have made commitments of targets with respect to their energy use and their greenhouse gas emissions. So we are looking to have this challenge support our members and their efforts, largely focused here in Saskatchewan. Again, I think is out of this, given the nature of our members, there's a chance that solutions from here, if they're particularly innovative and particularly, well, I guess more importantly, can be deployed, then again, have the challenge, have the opportunity to be deployed in other mineral sectors as well. So yeah, so please, follow up if you have more questions. Please do look at making a submission. As noted here, the application deadline is November 20. We're looking for innovative solutions and innovative solution providers, and certainly hoping those who may be shortlisted and potential winners on with us today on the webinar.
Excellent. Thank you, Al. Just one last question that has been posed to us in the chat here. I'll quickly just speak to before signing off. And that was from Travis, just wanting to further clarify the expectations for the November applications. Basically wanted to ensure that some of the items could be a single sentence or 10 pages. Like, for example, payback period calculations could be small or a full engineering study. Because of the variability in the size of applications that we are expecting back in terms of the maturity of the solutions across that TRL spectrum, the size of the firms involved, or the specific use cases of a given proposed solution, I would leave that, Travis, to your discretion. A critical element would be communicating clearly what would be general guidance. If you have a full engineering study already completed, and it's not confidential information that you're uncomfortable sharing, attaching it to your application makes sense. But some brief key assumptions that could help the evaluators assess whether they would like to have a deeper conversation with you about your particular solution would be the advice I would offer. The proposal is not intended to be a full comprehensive business case. It's intended to provide enough information that a reviewer can, upon looking at it, understand some of the key opportunities that your technology provides. So it truly is a bit of a selling document. And so more of a summary would be, I think, probably the preferred packaging of that material by the reviewers. So
Tom, if I could also, sorry, Tom, if I could also comment on that as well, Travis. So I would frame it as Tom kind of alluded to there, is you're kind of selling a narrative as to what the application is. The technical side of what you guys are doing is obviously going to be very important, but as Tom mentioned, we're looking for non-confidential information. So back of the envelope probably wouldn't suffice, but be able to list your assumptions and defend those assumptions that you have, and that would be suitable, I believe.
Well, for all participants today, thank you for your investment of time and energy in learning a little more about this challenge. We look forward to seeing a number of amazing and exciting applications coming in for our November 20th deadline. And just as a quick reminder, you'll be able to access this webinar and the answers to these questions in written form in the applicant portal, which is accessible through the IMII website on the challenge page. And your online application you can start anytime and update that at any time between now and the submission deadline. We wish all of you the best of luck and thank you all for your participation today. Thank you.